All right, Nick, you're familiar with the term Stockholm syndrome, right?
Yeah, I feel like I have it every day doing the podcast with you.
Well, first of all, we don't do it every day. We only do it once
Sorry,
a week.
Monday.
I feel like I have it like every night. I just these agent Facebook groups. It's
All right, yeah, I understand.
one of the common questions we see on there is, and I see it a lot more lately, and I'm sure it has a lot to do with the changes from the NAR settlement and things like that. And I wouldn't blame the NAR settlement, and I wouldn't blame the buyer broker agreement changes because at the end of the day, you pivot or you perish.
Sure.
And it's not so much of the changes. Oftentimes, it's about how agents have adapted to the changes. So, with that being said, I'm seeing a lot more and more posts of agents saying, "Oh, where do I find leads?" and so forth. And it's so easy to maybe pay for leads or just, hey, I post stuff on Facebook or whatever the case is. If you want to be successful in this business, you got to get in front of people and you got to meet people. And so I think one of the greatest lead sources for agents out there is the concept of networking. And everybody goes, yeah, I network. And everybody goes, yeah, let's go network. But nobody really, not to say nobody, but what does that mean? And what strategies do you implement? You know, when I'm going to select an event to go to, and when I show up to the event, what are the things that I'm going to do? And so we're just going to jump into our 3-pack today on, well, networking.
I really do think this is something that is not thought about enough when it comes to sales agents. If you're in real estate and you're choosing to spend time out in a public setting with a random group of people, if you don't have an intention, if you don't have a goal to have a couple conversations about real estate, I get you can go and have fun every once in a while, but you're kind of wasting your time, especially if you're choosing to go and network.
Yeah. So let's talk about networking. So it comes down to selecting the right events.
Yep.
I'll talk to agents and go, yeah, well, you know, I network all the time. I go to office happy hours. I go to these other networking events where other agents are at. Nothing wrong with that at all. As a matter of fact, you could leverage it and learn what other agents are doing.
Yep.
But for me, networking is about being at places where there are potential buyers and sellers. If I show up to a Norsdale happy hour, which, by the way, the last one, the food, that food was amazing. Those tacos.
Yeah.
That doesn't help me.
Well, I think it helps you if you're choosing to go into that intentionally by
Right.
talking to your fellow agent.
But
Yes.
if I'm looking for leads,
If you're looking for leads, wrong.
we haven't talked about this in a long time. So last year at the West USA Christmas party, so it's all agents, right? And I'm just telling people that's not where you meet buyers and sellers. We walked away with the bartender as a client because not an agent, a potential buyer seller, and we had a real estate conversation with her.
Sure.
So there you go.
You pick and choose.
So find the right events. Find events to either one. I do this a lot to take clients to, such as fundraisers and golf tournaments. Carlos Cicero, during the summer, the beginning of the summer, he had his charity golf tournament. And there are people in my sphere of influence that I want to network with. I either want to get to know better or I want to have conversations about getting to know their sphere of influence better. And I put Boys Burger Club, which is coming up. Great event. I always bring people. I always invite people to the Boys Burger Club because it's just a chance for me to spend some time with people in my sphere.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's been very few Boys Burger Clubs over the years that we've put on where I haven't met somebody new and at least have had real estate conversations. And our last one, I walked away with 2 potential buyers.
From people around the group?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think you choose to use it for client appreciation, things like that. You invite your clients. A lot of Luke Air Force guys can't say no to a burger. On the other side, Brock O'Neill, he brings people he works with in the industry. He brings his vendor partners to buy them a burger, have a beer, and just enjoy their company. And that's how he kind of does that networking for this. You as an agent need to choose, again, be intentional of what your goal is for that outing. And all these events are yours to use how you want to. You're a part of a group. We do a monthly burger meetup. Invite whomever you want to, but use that time wisely by reconnecting with someone, building a relationship with someone, or walking away with potential buyers and sellers.
So then that's one element of networking. And then the other element is I'm going to go to a true networking event where I may not know anyone. And my intention is to meet new people. And I'm looking for events where I can find potential buyers and sellers at, and I take a look at these events, and if you and we're going to get into kind of how you manage these networking events, but if you're looking for leads, find events. They could be interest groups. If you're into hiking and mountain biking, which I just mentioned too, that
I was going to say that's
don't
weird.
relate to me.
Well, I'm sitting next to you.
Whatsoever. Join networking groups and join clubs and be in settings where you can meet potential new buyers and sellers.
Yeah, and again, put stuff that you are interested in front of you. So hiking and mountain biking, those are my things, not Mikey's. I appreciate you trying to stake my stuff. But if I'm going out with a group of people that I've never gone running before, they're going to ask what I do for a living. You're going to be on a trail, on a road, on a hike with them for hours. Conversations are going to come up. It's a perfect time, not to be pushy, not to be salesy, but just to have a relationship building conversation around real estate.
Well, there you go. That's the segue. So when I'm showing up to these events, my goal is not to convert buyers and sellers. My goal is to simply have real estate conversations. That's the goal. We always joke that nobody wants to talk to a realtor, but everybody wants to talk real estate. So people are curious about the market right now. People are curious about how the election is going to impact the market and what the feds are doing. And this is what's on people's minds. Yeah. And so focus on conversations, but focus on the listener first. Let them reciprocate. You can't vomit on them. Be the question asker. Yep. Generate the conversation by asking questions and letting them talk, because eventually they're going to reciprocate. The goal, again, is to lead them into a real estate conversation. If you jump this and try to get into, hey, sign the buyer-broker agreement, or sign the ER, they're gone. Yeah. And then I like to focus on vocation. What do you do for a living? That's really what I want. That's my main question I want to get to, because then typically you're going to reciprocate and say, well, what do you do for a living? And then, come up with something creative that would generate a real estate conversation. But if you're going to do this, and if you're listening this morning, you're on your way there because you're listening and you're becoming knowledgeable about the market with Todd's stats and Matt's stats, and and a lot of people listen to Tina Tambor and things like that. Be knowledgeable about the market. That's what people want to talk about right now, is what's going on in the market. And then we always talk about storify. It's called social proof. If I tell a story about how I help somebody similar to your circumstances overcome challenges and buy a house or sell a house, in your mind, hey, this guy's for real. We call that social proof.
100%. And I think, we all go out and we have conversations with people out in the real world that we've never met before. I was out on Sunday running some errands, had a conversation with someone. They asked what I do for a living. I have yet to not have a conversation after when someone asks me what I do for a living. I say, I work in real estate. That's exactly how I say it. I could easily have a 20-minute conversation with someone as soon as I say that, and I'm not selling actively in real estate. People do want to have conversations with someone that is knowledgeable about the real estate market. They don't want to be sold. So just having that conversation, but the point number one there, focus on listening first. Yep. That is the huge point. That's the number one thing. You don't want to be over talkative. You want to let them talk to you, and then you just simply ask, couple questions.
I love it when somebody asks you what you do for a living and you say, I'm Mike Weinstein's personal assistant. That really goes places because, well, who's Mike Weinstein? That leads into an incredibly deep conversation for you.
It does. Generally, I'm Mike Weinstein's coach and mentor, and he owes everything that he has to me. But whatever you think that.
Yeah, but see, that's not social. People go, that's not true.
I have lots of stories that I can show how much I've helped you.
All right. And then a concept we've talked about in the past is shrink the room.
Yep.
Showing up to a mass networking event, whether, let's say you're at a convention and you're at the happy hour and there's 300 people, or you go to a B&I group and there's 50 people in the room, or whatever the setting is, a lot of people, especially introverts, they walk in and they see the crowd and they're like, oh my gosh, that's just way too many people. So we use a phrase called shrink the room. I know going into any setting, I have an idea of about how many people are going to be there. My goal is not to connect with everybody. My goal is not to hand out 150 business cards. I set a goal. I know how long the event is. I know how many people are going to be there. And I might say, okay, my goal tonight at this event is I want to have 3 real estate conversations. Now I've already shrunk the room. I don't have this pressure of having to connect with hundreds of people. And so I set the goal. I want to make 3 connections tonight. I want to have 3 real estate conversations. And the goal of every real estate conversation is to collect names, phone numbers, and or emails. And try to set appointments. Hey, Nick, had a great conversation. We've talked about this and this. Hey, how about we get together next Thursday at 4 or Friday at 2 to finish up the conversation? And it's not always easy to set appointments every single time, but that's the goal. But if I at least collect the name and phone number, I've got a chance. At these networking events, you hear me talk about all the time, I avoid business cards.
Sure.
What would you rather have? Hand out 100 business cards, but have nobody's names, phone numbers, or emails, or hand out 0 business cards. You've only talked to 3 people, and you've got the names, phone numbers, and emails of 3 people, and it's always the latter.
Yeah, when you get the information, you're putting the ball in your court. They're not going to call you back. They're going to throw the business card away as soon as you walk out of the room. But I like setting up your expectation lower. Set it to 3, 2, whatever that is, because it takes the pressure off. And just real quick, everybody, you're not going to be good at this the first couple of times you do it. So just be okay completely bombing those conversations. It takes time to get comfortable having these types of conversations, and that's okay.
All right, and so if I go to one networking event a week and I collect the names, phone numbers of 2 to 3 people, start doing the math.
It's perfect, and you're not walking in going, I have to talk to 100 people today. No way.
All right, buyer broker agreement fun fact brought to you by Nick Wiedekamp.
Oh, this is the one I stole.
Yeah, so if you have an expired buyer broker agreement and that buyer wants to write an offer on a property, again, the operative word there is expired, you must get a new buyer broker agreement signed to be compliant and to be compensated. So what we're saying here is the addending it does not work because it's expired.
Correct. You need a new buyer broker document, one of the two. Make sure you have that before writing the offer.